YouTube, hello. I think you can actually hear us this week, which should be improvement. Let's see if this pops up. All right, refresh on this. Check, check. 1, 2, 3. All right, I can hear I can hear audio.
Actually, I'm not getting video yet, but we'll. Oh, there it is.
Hear audio.
Hey.
Actually, I'm not getting video yet, but we'll. Oh, there it is.
Hear audio. Hey.
I'm gonna stop it before it becomes internal.
Inception.
It'd be fun if it did, though.
Yeah. All right.
Add a little
YouTube. Sorry, our bad for the last couple weeks, but thanks for a couple messages letting us know that the issues were happening, so we can get it fixed. Appreciate it. Cool.
Okay, that's good.
Aaron, how
Check,
are
check.
we? I don't think any of us were like crazy close with the actual like score of the Miami.
Oh yeah, I
Confusion
forgot
Bowl.
to.
How are we deciding? Like, are we going off point margin? Like, how are you going to
Yeah, let me
decide
look.
like who is closest?
I think
forgot
you go
to-
off the guy who was closest, like philosophically.
Well, it wouldn't be you,
Closest to
Josh,
what-
unfortunately.
Closest to what?
Yeah.
odds to a-
Well,
closest
yeah,
to what
you're
odds have
clearly off. Well, the question is between me and Aaron. I don't even remember what I said.
You
I
said
just can't
you
remember.
said 45-20. I said 34-17. So you were closer as far as like point margin, like margin of victory, but I was closer in terms of like Miami had 34 points right on the nose. Actually, is that right? What was the score?
That sounds. I thought they were in the 30s. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. Would Miami only had like 3 points though?
Correct.
I mean, goodness. Oof.
It was 38-3. So it depends on like how you rule that. Like, so you would be closer in terms of like Miami won by 35. You had them winning by 25. I had them winning by 17. But I had Miami with 34 points. They had 38. I had Miami, Ohio with 17. They had 3. So that's a difference of like 21. And your overall point difference is more. So I don't know.
Josh, do we have a ruling here? Impartial
against-
third
Actually,
party.
don't tell us
I was
now.
checking
Tell
audio
us later.
Oh yeah. Tell us live.
Absolutely. I'll tell you live.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
And it will be firm. I will not pick myself.
Please
it
be
will be a
arbitrary
firm-
about it
I'm going
though.
to be arbitrary.
Yeah, it can't be you.
No,
It can't be you.
No, it's
Yeah.
going gut. I'm going gut.
All right, I will plop the standings in here.
Yeah, I will. For the pick'em. Oh no, you mean for our thing.
Standings, yeah.
Do you want me to pull up the pick'em stuff, or
You
don't
can
worry
if
about it?
you
Week one.
are brave enough to reveal what your score was.
Gosh, I don't even know. I think it was like a praise the Lord that LSU Florida State wasn't on there because it would have gotten that one wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I didn't do. No, I still did poorly.
Yeah,
Oof.
you're dead last.
Am I really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right. Well,
That
I
would
can
be because I was very positive on Colorado losing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, let's. I'll hit record and then we can get this thing recorded.
Let's get it going.
All right. Welcome to the Fifth and Goal podcast. My name is Aaron. I'm joined, as always, by my good friends Josh and Johnny. We're back for another episode. It is episode 124, the one where we're breaking down a full week of college football, and what a week of college football it has been. We're recording on a Monday before the Clemson Duke game, so we won't really talk about that one since it hasn't happened yet. But everything else we're going to break down. We have picks. We have NFL division predictions coming up on the show. But before we get into all of that, Josh, what's up, man? How's your week?
Doing great. Give me 1 sec. Sorry, guys. New laptop. I am trying to figure out ways to keep this thing not from getting too hot. But I'm assuming you can hear that.
I can't, but
I'm gonna check. I'm just gonna check my. No, I don't want to cut it.
I mean, you can cut.
I have my fans going full blast right now just to kind of see if I don't want this thing. It gets my MacBooks have always gotten really hot whenever I do recordings, and I don't know why. And I'm trying to figure out a good way to make sure that this doesn't cook every laptop I've ever had. For some reason, I've never been able to stream and do record and do Discord. It always wants to cook my laptop all the way. So I'm just going to keep them constant value of, let's try this. Automatic. Yeah, you can hear that. Let's just keep them both at 3,500.
The other thing you could always try too, if you have to, is you could, I think there's a way to join Discord from the phone.
Oh yeah, that could work. Let's see if that's okay. That's good for now. That just keeps some fans, some airflow moving. Okay. Sorry, I think we're good now.
Okay.
And I might mute out every now and then just to make sure.
Yeah.
Cool. I am doing great. I went to a fun... You know what? It wasn't fun. I don't want to do straight to jail immediately, but we're going to have to go into it. I went to Twins at Rangers this past Friday. And remember how I said back in July when I went to the Rangers game, that was probably the best game I'd ever been to. 23 runs scored. It was just fantastic. Rangers were on fire. They lost, but they lost well. My goodness, this was the polar opposites. Rangers are only a game back in their division. They're not horrendous. They're all the teams. I mean, Orioles, Rangers, Astros are all in the realm of 70, mid 70s, games won. But my goodness, this was the worst. This is the worst baseball I've ever seen, MLB wise. And I went to Reds games back in the day.
Hold on now, Josh. You went to Pirates games.
I also went to Pirates games. I went to Pirates games at any time ever. And it was just, I've never seen, I don't want to complain too much because again, they're right next to me, but I've never seen worse fielding, frankly. They were fielding, there were so many dropped balls from the Rangers. It almost convinced me that I could go out there and field myself. And I can't. I am not a baseballer. But my goodness, I wanted to. It was bad. One dinger from someone, doesn't matter because it was only one dinger, and that was the only score Rangers had all night. Made me glad for a pitch clock because I wanted that game to be over so quickly. But anyway, and then they did better against the Twins the next day. So what do I know?
Yeah, there's baseball for you.
Good old baseball.
We're getting close. I mean, that
why
division race is pretty wild right now between Rangers, Astros, and the Mariners have been red hot. So that's
Mariners. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It'll be fun.
Nice. Johnny, what's up? How's your week?
Good. I did absolutely nothing on Saturday except just watch football. Well, I watched soccer in the morning, coach soccer in the morning. We get to noon and we just did football until 2 a.m. Quad view. In love with quad view. Yep. It's pretty incredible. Absolutely love that. Helps stave off of the dumb commercials that are happening right now. I've never in my life seen more commercials.
It's terrible.
So we stand with Chip Kelly. He is our leader against. We're fighting against the man here. Fight against the man. No more commercials.
Yeah. It's bad. I know I'm supposed to share about my week right now, so I guess I will, and then I can yell about commercials. My week was good too. I watched a lot of football. So that was pretty much the highlight. That was awesome. So we'll continue to watch football tonight. I'm in 2 fantasy football drafts the next couple days, so we're just keeping it rolling. I'm so glad college football is back. But yeah, allow me to just interrupt the wonderful weekend that has been college football and its full return. And maybe this makes me sound old. I don't really care. These commercials are insane. The number of commercials. We warned you last week, to be fair. We warned you that this new rule change with the clock not stopping on first down until 2 minutes left in the second or fourth quarter. I had to correct some people this week. More casual-minded fans, if you will, who said, "Oh, I can't. I
Mm-hmm.
love this rule. This is going to speed up the game." And I said, "That it should." You're correct. It should. But let me tell you the sad, sad truth of what's actually happening and what is actually happening. And you know this if you watched college football at all this weekend. What's actually happening is the TV companies have just tried to pad that wallet even more and have thrown commercials in wherever possible. Essentially, someone did the math so you don't have to. And I don't have this tweet pulled up. If I find it, I'll give them credit because they did a lot of work to find out this information. But they basically took a 3+ hour game. I think it was a little over 3 hours. And 1 full hour of that was just commercials. And this was not including like the Aflac trivia question or sponsored segments within the actual broadcast, if you will, but just straight up advertisements, cutting away from the game, going to an advertisement. 1 hour. The game times are basically the exact same time. It's not shortening the games. It's crazy. I haven't been to a game physically yet. It's bad on TV, but at least for me, I realize this is a privilege. I'll just start a game kind of late and I can just skip through commercials and it doesn't make that much of a difference. I'm curious when the time comes for me to actually start going to some games, how long is it going to feel then? Yeah. And maybe if you are out there in listener world, you can let us know if you have been to a game. Does it feel agonizingly long there, like in person? I'm assuming yes, but it's pretty wild.
I think it's longer too. And again, not that we need to camp on this, but I think it's going to play a factor later on. I also saw tweets where, again, that time is just being filled with commercials. Significantly, it's also not being filled with football, specifically snaps.
Well, they cut plays out.
Exactly. Let's just use Ohio State, Indiana over the weekends. Ohio State won 23-3. They had about an even time of possession. I believe it was like 31 minutes to 28 minutes, 30, around that time, 32 to 28 in that case to make it even. With that, Ohio State got 67 snaps off, 67 plays off rather, versus Indiana's 54. So average that out, that's about 60 plays of total like offensive power, which is generally speaking not as many as you normally. I don't have the stats for that game like from years past, but I do have this. In 2022, Florida International ran 74 plays against Louisiana Tech. This past weekend, they ran 44 plays, 30 fewer plays. That means that's going to play a big factor. Right now, that just means efficiency in play calling, efficiency in, execution. You have to get the ball down. Second off, if you're a team who normally runs slow, you're in trouble because the game management, time management is 100% different now. Because if you're down and you can't will up, this is going to be TCU would not have made it last year with these new rules.
Yeah, right.
And so this is going to be it's changing objectively how the game is being played. Now, we knew this was going to happen. This is more of a gameplay thing, fewer plays. But what we're seeing is college football being replaced not with more sports, but with more commercials. We're seeing, and the joke was always that football only has 11 active minutes of play. And that's a joke. It's a fun joke, but in reality, it
feels like that. Fun. It feels like that right now.
Now it really feels like that.
Yes. Yeah. It's, and again, we don't need to harp on it a ton more. I talked about it last week, kind of as a warning shot, hey, it was only week 0. And I still felt like this sucks. It hurts. Like you said, Josh, the comebacks. It does benefit teams, though, that run the ball effectively. Yeah. It's week 1, so I don't think I saw a lot of teams really take that into consideration. I do feel like Indiana shortened that game as much as they possibly could to prohibit Ohio State drives. So I didn't see any team do it so successfully that it was wow, they won that game, and it was because they just ball controlled it the whole time. And there's probably a game out there that I'm missing that they did do that. But Indiana shortened that game. And as bad as Ohio State played, in a normal year, Ohio State probably puts up another couple touchdowns on that team as poorly as they played, just because they get additional possessions.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk about Ohio State later. I mean, the coach, here's my thing though. All the coaches hate it. All of the coaches hate it. I haven't heard a single coach come out and say, hey, this is awesome. And the whole this is to protect the players. Guys, it's 6 plays in a game. It's 6 plays. This is not protecting the players. This was always a money grab. These commercials aren't even like the baseball split screen where they are kind of showing a commercial on the side, and then the other side they are showing, the team huddling up and getting ready. I think it was last night, Florida State and LSU. I believe it was a 3rd and goal from Florida State. They were late coming out of commercial. We missed the snap of the ball.
Yep.
And people were tweeting about it and losing their minds over it, as they should. We are here to watch the game. You can't be cutting that close. The only other sport I know that cuts it that close is soccer. Well, you know why? They have pregame, they have halftime, and postgame. They get no commercial time. That's why you see the ads circling around.
Yep.
I don't have a massive problem with that. One, because it happens one time in the game. And I've also never seen them come in late. Football can't afford that. They cannot afford that. Also, whoever switched out the Allstate Good Hands for the Celsius drinks, jail.
Oh, no, that's the
Because
worst.
that's
the worst. Honestly, that was the worst thing I saw this
horrible
weekend.
in the field goal nets. That is the worst thing I saw this weekend. It just, I don't care if Allstate was offering less money. Jail. Automatically, it's not even that see-through.
It's a double side. I mean, it's a double-sided straight to jail for Celsius for thinking they could replace. I don't know if I want to drink a Celsius again in my life. 2,
that's what I think with these ads. It makes me hate these companies.
Three-sided. Because then any TV deal who was expecting more money and forcing Allstate's hands, and then 3 Allstate for not being willing to give more money for a American institution that is the Good Hands.
Yeah.
Just like I've
every net.
I have completely gone away from Tostitos since they stopped sponsoring the Fiesta Bowl in protest.
How could you? How could you do something like this to us?
Until they come back.
Yeah. Well,
that's why I'm boycotting Cheez-It before introducing the Cheez-It Pizza Hut pizza.
Well, and the Cheez-It Bowl's dead now too.
Cheez-It Bowl's dead now. There's no reason. Ugh.
No. Okay, hold on, Josh. Pop-Tarts Bowl is still great. We wish we had both.
Yeah. It's sad that one had to die for the other to arise out of the ashes, but it is what it is. It is time for us to stop griping and talk about what's on the field. What did you expect, though? You mentioned that the Celsius thing was the worst thing you had seen all weekend. I would raise you South Carolina's offensive line. North Carolina on Saturday night sacks South Carolina quarterback Spencer Rattler 9 times. They completely dominated on both sides of the ball. I will say this before we get into this game. I give a ton of credit to Spencer Rattler for his play. He was incredible.
Yes.
Anyone else in his situation is throwing several interceptions. He did not. He stayed poised. Anyone else in his situation would be understandably upset at their offensive line, and while I'm sure he was, he kept his poise, wasn't yelling at them, wasn't embarrassing them, even though he probably had a right to, because that was an abysmal performance. And I picked South Carolina straight up, and I was completely wrong. That was probably the pick I was the most wrong about all week. North Carolina played really well. They've got some dogs on defense. And I know the coaching staff had told you so, but because of how bad that North Carolina defense had been over the last few years, we didn't really have a reason to believe them until Saturday night. And now all of a sudden, with the North Carolina game going the way it did, with Florida State's beatdown of LSU, we've suddenly gone from a conference where we think Florida State and Clemson might be the only 2 legitimate teams in the ACC to, okay, what about North Carolina? Or maybe the question will be later on as we move on, what about Pittsburgh? Or what about some of these other teams? Maybe it's not as weak as we thought. Now, I could be saying all this and maybe Duke has embarrassed Clemson or vice versa. But even if they do, it's still the ACC. So that's a tremendous win for the ACC in week 1.
Huge. Aaron, you're totally right. North Carolina, it was definitely addition by subtraction on defense this offseason. I believe they ranked 121st in total defense. Y'all, there's only 131 teams last year in the FBS. Like, that's how awful they were on defense. Sam Howell had no help. He also was sacked, I believe, the most last season. So it wasn't just that defense. That defensive line is nasty. The secondary still needs more work, but they're getting so much pressure on Spencer Rattler. The secondary didn't have to do a whole lot in the second half specifically. But the offensive line was brilliant for North Carolina as well. Sam Howell had time to throw. He was able to pick them. Sam Howell, I'm sorry. Drake May had time. Both great quarterbacks at North Carolina. Mac Brown knows how to pick them, man. Drake May just had time to completely dissect that South Carolina defense. It was really cool to see them win that battle in the trenches. That was super surprising to me. And Florida State did the same thing to LSU. It was, and you hear this all the time, it's a cliche in college football, but you win games in the trenches. You always think it's the quarterback and the wide receiver, and of course that's always so important. But if you lose the line of scrimmage, we just talked about how well Spencer Rattler played. It didn't matter because he got the ball and the defender was already in his face on the snap. He had no time to do anything. He willed that team down the field a couple times before turnover on downs, trying to keep them in the game. He played well, but he had zero time to throw the ball. Nothing could be done in that. So that North Carolina, like that was cool. And that's cool for the ACC race, as you mentioned too, Aaron. Like it feels like a legitimate, like, hey, it's not just a two-team. One, Florida State was like legitimized completely.
They're back.
Which that was surprising to me. Like, not that I thought LSU was going to kill them, but I picked LSU to win. And I thought if Florida State won, most people like, oh man, maybe you win by a field goal, really close game. Like, no, they dominated them in that second half. And for North Carolina to dominate in that second half, that was such a big couple nights for the ACC to do that to the SEC of all teams too. And the SEC had a rough opening weekend. They lost every game of consequence pretty much.
Every major game.
Yeah, one of those being Florida losing to Utah, which was maybe somewhat predictable. But then when you heard that Utah's starting quarterback, starting tight end are out, you're like, okay, maybe Florida, even though they're going to Utah, has a good chance. And no, that game was over at halftime for all intents and purposes. So yeah, kind of 0-3 for the SEC. I know everyone wants to do their victory laps on the SEC, and by all means go ahead, because there's not very many chances that we get to run those victory laps. And maybe if we're overreacting to week one enough, we look at these games and we think, well, maybe this is more of a top-heavy conference than we realized. And that might be true. Mm-hmm. The reality is, I know Georgia didn't look amazing, but I was impressed by Alabama. We've tried to tell you this is going to be a different-looking Alabama. Jaden Milroe, I thought it was a pretty good debut for him. Running, he just randomly picked up a fumble and decided, I'll just run this in the end zone. No big deal. I know they played Middle Tennessee, but I think Alabama is going to be good. Georgia will figure it out. The SEC will still be good. So what I'm basically saying is the SEC is the best conference. Week one did not change that. But yeah, they had some rough games. So if you are not an SEC fan, go run your mouth on Twitter. Have some fun before Alabama kicks Texas's teeth in next week, or
Texas, we believe in you.
I hope so.
Deal the killing blow. Deal it.
And the SEC,
the Pac-12 might have something to say.
13-0 Pac-12,
especially depth of the conference this year. We just talked about top heaviness. 13-0. Aaron, you're right, because who's played 2 games already? USC's already played 2 games, so they won both. Again, these are games. This is also, they lose these games annually. Yeah. And we build them up week 1 and week 2, and here's the Pac-12's chance. And they don't always just lose them. They lose them in utter embarrassing or heartbreaking ways. Where there's no, Oregon losing to Auburn comes to mind, where there was no chance in the world Justin Herbert should lose to Bo Nix in Auburn, and they blow it somehow because they get conservative. Or you have vice versa, where last year Georgia just kicks Oregon's teeth in. So for them to survive the non-conference, and it's not over yet, obviously, but for them to survive the first round of the non-conference games, that's what bodes well when it comes to playoff time. And we don't want to talk a ton about playoff, of course, but it allows that margin of error in conference play that you desperately need. How many times have we seen Alabama get in, Georgia get in, Ohio State get in the playoff because they won that marquee game in the non-conference? Mm-hmm. And so when they lose that conference game, well, they're sitting there at 11-1 and they have a great win, and their losses, you're like, oh, but it's a conference game on the road. That's tough. You can explain it away. But the Pac-12 in the past has blown that game in the non-conference. And then when they lose on the road to Oregon State, it's over. So it was huge. Like, can't really overstate to me what that meant for their playoff opportunities going forward.
Well, speaking of the Pac-12, they're 13-0, not only because Utah handled Florida and because USC played twice and all that. The Pac-12 is 13-0 because Colorado went to Fort Worth, right in Josh's backyard practically, and took down the defending runners-up, as I like to call them. The Horned Frogs go down. Coach Prime.
Wow.
This turnaround's been amazing.
Beautiful game.
Yeah. Offense galore. If you love offense, you love this game. We
best game of the weekend.
Oh, easily, without question.
Oh, absolutely,
not close.
This preseason, if you are a relatively new listener, let me just quickly give you a summary of what we said about Colorado. And honestly, it might still be what we're saying about Colorado.
Yeah,
we said Colorado would be 4-8. That this rebuild is monumental, which it is. That this experiment is the greatest one ever attempted in college football, which it is. And hey, maybe TCU is just not going to be that good this year. That's a distinct possibility. But I'm not taking anything away from Colorado. What they did was amazing. Coach Prime, yes, he gets all the love for so many reasons, and he deserves it for his ability to hype up players, to instill the culture, and he's done all of those things. But the man can flat out coach. And Coach Prime brought in some key coordinators that just flipped a switch on Saturday and figured it out. Now, that defense got dissected like crazy against a quarterback that even threw a couple picks and wasn't that efficient or accurate at times, and they still had to outscore TCU. So the defense is going to be a concern moving forward. I think we can tell that. Mm-hmm. But the offense was a thing of beauty. Shadur Sanders had over 500 yards passing. It broke a Colorado school record. And Travis Hunter, if you are one of those folks that puts out a top 5 Heisman list, and Travis Hunter is not on those list, on that list,
he needs to be number 1.
Straight to jail. Yeah, I would argue that he shouldn't be 5, 4, 3, or maybe even 2. But if he's not in your top 5, and you're someone that makes top 5 Heisman lists and posts it anywhere online for other people to see, and he's not on it, straight to jail. And I also know that if he's not on it, you did not watch that game. Because he played 139 snaps in like 100-degree weather, had a pick, caught over 100 yards, like was the best athlete on the field. And you knew he was going to. But I think there was some question is, okay, how quickly will he transition to a Power 5 level, trying to play both ways, which just doing that at any level in college football is utterly insane. And his ability to be the best athlete on both sides of the football. Someone explain to me why TCU insisted on throwing the ball his way. Did they really?
Fans were asking for it.
Well, I know they were. The TCU fans got exactly what they asked for. They got exactly what they asked for.
It was amazing.
That was the thing that stunned me. The number of times they threw the ball number 12's way. When he had that diving interception and just came out of nowhere, like 1 second you can't see him on your TV screen, the other second he's got the ball in his hands diving in front of the pass. And even then, TCU's like, we'll throw it his way, whatever. What could be the harm? He almost had a second pick. He basically dropped a second pick. This dude is unreal.
He had that one touchdown called back. That was millimeters away from
Yep.
being like a second touchdown for him. No, Aaron, I think everybody forgot because he decided to go to Jackson State. This was the top recruit in the country.
Correct.
Nick Saban was so
He's
upset
punching
that
air.
Alabama missed out on him.
Yep.
Florida State, those like, and I think everybody was just like, oh, it's Florida State fans. They're being ridiculous, like losing their minds over missing out on Travis Hunter and Deion, quote, stealing him from them. Like,
Right.
Well, I think nobody is like thinking they're exaggerating at this point anymore. Like that dude is incredible. I love the question of where is he most valuable because it's such a difficult answer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like it's such a difficult answer. But like that pick, that was not his man. Like that was not the guy he was supposed to be guarding.
Yep.
He left his assignment, read the play, and got that pick. That's also why that was so incredible. What you said though, Aaron, like you have Kent State's former head coach calling plays on offense. Deion put together a brilliant staff. That's actually what I was most impressed by in the game. Like Shedeur Sanders, obviously incredible. Travis Hunter, obviously incredible. We're leaving out so many other players who played so well as well. There were like almost no penalties. There were no turnovers in the game. That team looked calm, composed. They never looked rattled in any way, shape, or form. And this is how many transfers on this team? Like it's a brand new team.
The answer is yes.
Right. The safety, I think, got one of the picks, and they had to say, like, hey, he actually played on Colorado last year. Like, they had to tell us, like, hey, actually, this one's not a transfer. He's from last year's team. Yep. He's still here. That was my favorite, like, Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt part of the game. We're like, hey, actually, this one, he's been here for a little bit. But the moment was absolutely not too big.
Yeah.
But there were no like dumb, stupid penalties and moments. They just looked so ready. And that is very hard for a coach that's been there for a long time to do week one. So that part was what surprised me because I would have forgiven that. Like I would not have been like, oh my gosh, how could you have 3 false start penalties and a delay a game and a dumb personal foul? I would have been like, well, week one, all these new players, they're fine. That's what, like, those 4 or 5 wins that we were projecting, like, to us was not even like an insult. We were just like, wow, like that team only won 1 game last year. We actually think like they're going to win like 3 or 4 more. I think they'll be great, like much, much better. And so that was absolutely incredible. I don't know, Josh, Aaron, how many games, like that's the question being asked now, because of course it's overreact week 1.
Yep.
How many games do you think Colorado will, like, I don't think any of us are saying they're going to get destroyed in these games, but how many do you think they'll end the regular season with at this point? And
the over under was 3.5. And we predicted barely over. Now I would say comfortably over. But by how much?
Comfortably over. We're good now. What would you guys say?
It's still I don't want to be boring, but
I'm still only going 7.
7 wins?
7 wins. 7 or 8
I don't
wins.
know if I can make a good prediction yet because I said this last week or 2 weeks ago whenever we talked about this. I was not sold on TCU being the 17th best. 17th.
Right.
Yes, we all agreed on that for sure.
So but to be fair, there was no way in the world to predict that Colorado was going to do this.
No.
Like there was too many new players.
Yeah.
You as TCU, you cannot plan for a team like that. You have no clue.
There's no tape.
Yeah, there's no tape. So I'm going to give them a bit of grace, and I'm going to still say 5 games. I don't have enough information to change anything, so I think I said 4 or 5 games last time. I'm going to stick with that for now.
Yeah. I think I'm with you, Josh. I think I'm probably on the lower end, at risk of Deion Sanders personally coming to my house, beating down my door, and inspiring me to change my pick, as only he can. I'll read you some of the winnable games on their schedule, and truly, with the offense that they displayed on Saturday, maybe all of these games are winnable. If they can put up that kind of offense, I think that may have been more to TCU's defense. But Josh, that's a tremendous point you made, that there's no tape on this team. This is something brand new that we've never seen. And even the tape that you do have on Shedeur Sanders is at the FCS level. And that's just a totally different game. Now, obviously, he fit in incredibly well, and they're not going to miss a beat on offense. So some winnable games. I'll throw Nebraska as a winnable game because they lost a one-possession game. You know college football's back when Nebraska's losing a one-possession game, at which they did against Minnesota, as only they can.
In for another great big kickoff game.
So that's
another great one.
That's this week. That is the Colorado home opener, and I cannot wait to watch that game. The environment in Boulder is going to be unlike anything they've seen since 1990 when they won a national title. They play Colorado State. I honestly just want to give them a win. Colorado State is not good. Thank you for helping me win money this week, Colorado State. So we're at 3 at Oregon. That's going to be tough. Not saying they can't, but I'm not calling it winnable. USC, not calling it winnable per se. At Arizona State, yes. Stanford, yes. At UCLA, maybe.
I think it's winnable.
Yeah, all of these games are winnable. I'm saying, like, I look at this and I think instantly my mind just gives Colorado the W.
Oh, sure.
So I'll
USC
maybe.
and Oregon are on another level than UCLA.
Certainly.
Say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oregon State, I'm going to say no for now because DJU looked real good for Oregon State, and I know they played San Jose State, but I was impressed. I think it was actually his highest passer rating ever as a quarterback. Arizona, yes. Washington State, I'll say yes, and then Utah.
That's winnable.
So we're at 7. So maybe I'll say 6. I'll split the difference between you guys and say 6.
That's why I say, like,
ride the fence.
Yeah. I think they'll probably lose a game that you're like, man, how'd they lose that?
Oh, yeah.
And then I think they probably pull off an upset, even a smaller-ish one against like UCLA. But, you know, like that USC game, that's going to be so overhyped. But at the same time, neither of these teams can play a whole lot of defense.
First team to 50.
First one to first to 50 wins that. It'll be a blast to watch. The offensive firepower will be ridiculous. You'll need several IVs for Travis Hunter in that game. Can we put a tracker? I want it like soccer. Like, how many miles did that kid run during that game? I'd like to know. Yeah, but you know, we're singing all of Colorado's praises. A couple reasons why we're not like 10-2 like a lot of people right now. 1, those are tough games on their schedule.
Yeah.
2, offensive line was impressive, but they looked like they were starting to get worn down towards the end of that game. And it was just a very brilliantly play-called game. I think the schematics served Shedeur very well in that game and protected him. Like, not as in, like, he needs protected, like, from himself, but more like the offensive line. And then defensively, TCU, why didn't you keep running the ball?
Yeah.
You're averaging, like, 6-7 yards a carry. TCU, like, again, we're not taking anything away from Colorado here. TCU had a clear path to victory and said, no, we'd like to keep throwing the ball, please. And so that is going to be seen on tape. Look at Nebraska probably even this week. They're probably going to try to just run right up the gut at that defensive line for Colorado. And our main concern at the beginning of the season was attrition for Colorado. Mm-hmm. So early in the year, we expect good things, but as some injuries pile up here, and they always do, especially defensively, especially at the offensive and defensive lines, they're not going to have the players to replace them as backups at depth to keep up that standard. So after we get past the Oregon and USC games, I'm going to be kind of concerned about their depth. So that'll be interesting to watch. Now, again, their stars are so much better than I even imagined that it makes up for some of that I would be surprised to see them not get to a bowl game. Like that would be relatively stunning for me with their schedule. There's enough winnable games. You got to get to a bowl game now after what you showed us week 1. But again, 6-6, even after week 1, is a brilliant coaching job. So let's not change our expectations off of week 1 and make them ridiculous. Let's remember it's still a 1-11 team. And if they go to a bowl game, that is absolutely phenomenal coaching and well done by the players.
Yep. Yeah, without question. And we'll see what happens with TCU. I think that's obviously a much more minor detail. TCU could, again, I'm not saying this to take away anything from Colorado. I'm just saying it because the Big 12, I think, is wide open. TCU could be bad. Like, TCU could be a team fighting for a bowl spot this year.
Yeah, it was bad.
The
Big 12 had a bad weekend.
Yeah, they did. So that, I think, mostly wraps up week 1. I guess since we are Buckeye fans, it's probably worth mentioning that game against Indiana was tough to sit through and watch. 23-3 at the end of the day. It is a 20-point road victory against a conference opponent. But when that opponent is Indiana and you've won 28, well, yeah, right.
It's an SEC caliber quality win. No, it's an in-conference team away with no defined, like, confident QB1, with a very we'll talk about that in a second, with a very conservative play caller in Ryan Day. Like, with all of these factors, with the team that really doesn't have a distinct identity yet, we still won by pretty much 3 scores. Now, where the first 6 drives were incredibly disturbing. I believe 3 of them were punts, ended in punts. 1 of them ended in an interception. 1 ended in a touchdown, and the other a field goal. And, like, that's not what we're used to. And that's not representative. That's not reflective of the caliber of the receiving core. And I would say even then with the play calling, like, there is, you guys know more too, but I want to be a little bit gracious, only because we didn't fall apart. And even if we did, we still fell apart with a 3-score lead.
Josh, what's your concern level from 1 to 10?
Oh, gosh.
You're a Buckeye fan, so, like, don't be objective. What is your, as a fan, what is your concern
the unease
level?
is sitting me at like a 5.
Okay. I think that's very reasonable.
Not enough. Yeah, I'm like, there's not enough information yet. Like, what I saw was a team that was not confident in anything that it was doing and still held, like, Indiana to 3 points. Now, was it Indiana? Yes. Were those 3 points the result of an interception? Of course. But, like, that they did exactly what they were supposed to do with that. And still, like we said, their efficiency in at least getting scores off was consistent.
I'll say this.
Settled in. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Josh. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was gonna say, like, once they kind of figured out a little bit about what was going on, there was more confidence. Maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna sit at a 5. I want to see another week or two. If we were playing Notre Dame next week, we'd be at a 10.
Yes, and that's where mine goes. So that's where my mind goes. Yeah. It was bad. Objectively, from a Buckeye fan, and Josh, you said this, and I think that's the important point. Ohio State fans aren't used to a team that doesn't score 40 points per game. And realistically, and again, slightly overreacting to week 1, this does not look like a team that's going to score 40 points per game. And it has been just a long, long time since Buckeye fans have seen a team like that. You really have to go pre-Urban Meyer, essentially. I know there's some years in there, but you get the general idea. I do think this defense, and I know it was in Indiana, and I know I'm overreacting to week 1, but I was incredibly impressed by the defense. And I think this defense has a chance to be top 20 in the country. And that is not something you could say about an Ohio State defense, since also maybe before Urban Meyer. Like, you have to go way back to Jim Tressel and Jim Haycock and all. I mean, I'm going way back.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
and that's where this team's going to have to rely on.
Yeah.
I think the offense will figure itself out. The offensive line was just plain bad, and I think that's primary concern number 1. And you have to remember, there's 3 starters gone. The both tackles, the center, gone to the NFL. So you're replacing over half of your line that have never played a game together, and it showed. I went back and watched some of that game. I don't know why, because I'm insane. Because I wanted to break down why exactly did the offensive line look so bad. And it wasn't so much that they were getting beat. You know, there was a defensive end lining up and just ran right around the offensive lineman. It was the communication that was bad. Tackles just weren't picking up a middle linebacker. Or, I don't know, there was a double on one player and no help and a sack. And that, to me, I'm like, that's not great, because we do have Notre Dame coming in, or we're going to Notre Dame in 3 weeks. But in my head, at least, communication is a lot easier to fix than, hey, this tackle can't block. He's slow. He's bad. And I didn't necessarily see that. That could be true. But to me, it was more this team, especially on offense, hasn't played together. There's a lot of moving parts with key pieces and new players and big roles. This is all new. And I'm hopeful that Youngstown State and Western Kentucky continue this runway of improvement until we go to Notre Dame. If things don't improve, I'm with you, Josh. I think my level of concern is a 5. If we don't look better on offense at this time in 2 weeks, my concern's a 10. Because Notre Dame could be a loss, Penn State could be a loss, Michigan could be a loss, heck, Maryland could be a loss. And those could all be losses anyways. But they're much more likely to be losses if your offense is scoring 25, 26 points and you're hoping your defense holds the other team to 10. Holding Michigan to 10 points is going to be virtually impossible. And that might be true for Penn State as well. And Notre Dame, because I know they've played nobody. They've played food so far. But Notre Dame has looked real good. And they'll get a good test against North Carolina State. So we're about to find out. But
glad you guys are so calm and rational. And I'm bringing the alarm bell. I'm ringing the alarm bell right now because that was awful. It was awful. And the defense looked much improved. But they still, to me, do not look like a defense that can carry the team. They do not look remotely near what those Alabama defenses have been before, what those Georgia defenses have been before. Heck, even what that Ohio State defense was in 2018 with JT Barrett and that like anemic offense, and that defense just dragged them to the playoff and beat Michigan. We're still nowhere near that. I still didn't see nearly enough pressure on the quarterback, especially with just a 3 or 4 man rush. There's still not enough pressure. They're not creating turnover even opportunities, really. They dropped 1 pick, but there just wasn't a lot in the game. And I know Indiana's running like a triple option. It was a weird game. I was happy with the defense, so I don't want to like nitpick the defense. They just don't look special to me. And that's what you need if your offense is not going to be very, very good or at least efficient. It wasn't efficient on offense. Ohio State should be able to tell Indiana, hey, it's 3rd and 1. We're running the football. Stop us. That's still not fixed. That, to me, is almost more concerning than anything in the passing game and I know we have the offensive line adjustments and new players in, but it's running the ball on 3rd and 1. That shouldn't take a ton of communication when we're finding the gap that the play prescribes and having the blocking for the running back to go through it. The short yardage running has not been fixed. The play calling made no sense to me. It was so conservative that was actually hurting Kyle McCord because they weren't letting him stretch the defense downfield, which meant Indiana just loaded the box and was changing up when and where they were bringing pressure from because they're like, well, you're not throwing it more than 5 yards. McCord, guys, I know everyone's like, it's his first start. What about CJ Stroud? CJ Stroud threw 4 touchdowns in that Minnesota game. He had bad moments. He looked good and showed the flash. I've never seen that from Kyle McCord. And I don't want to like hammer the guy. He's not some horrible quarterback, but I don't see that. And this is year 3 in the system. You have it or you do not have it. And I'm fearful he does not have it. Personally, I was kind of upset that Devin Brown didn't get a real opportunity in the game.
Yeah.
He had 3 snaps and they ran the ball 3 times and then he never got on the field again. Okay, then just tell us that Kyle McCord is your starting quarterback because Devin Brown never got an opportunity to even throw the ball. So this is not a competition. It's Devin's second season. I would like to see, heck, even if he's hit or miss right now, if he has a little bit of the flash, throw him in there because we're not, in my opinion, we are not beating Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan without a little bit of special at quarterback. I don't see that. I don't see that as possible. And that's the expectation at Ohio State. That's the expectation. And Kyle is not consistent enough to be even an efficient game manager to get the ball on time, out and accurate to Marvin Harrison and Emeka Ibuka and all the weapons that we have. So I'm extremely concerned. I even think that Western Kentucky game could be a little hairy at times in a couple weeks because they have a great passing game. And if they're able to get some points on the Buckeyes early in that game, people are going to panic, including the players on the field. So I did not come away feeling – I felt like all my fears, offensive line, quarterback, came to fruition, except for the defense actually looks like it could potentially be solid.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Buckeye fans are freaking out because if you don't blow Indiana out by 40, this is what happens. I just think it is funny. It's worth saying that if we beat Indiana 45-21, we'd probably just think, yeah, cool, business as usual. But somehow a different point margin and it being and Ohio State looking more like a Big Ten West team than the Ohio States that you're used to. I think part of that is just really jarring to Buckeye fans. And so there's more panic. But I'm also not going to, if someone's like Johnny and really, really concerned with what they saw, I'm not going to say, well, you silly person, you just believe in Ryan Day, because we've seen this in the past where if he faces adversity, he kind of turtle shells a little bit and tightens up and clenches the fists and grabs the playbook hard and, calls quarterback draws or, whatever, and is afraid to move the ball downfield. We've seen that. And we thought that maybe the Georgia game cured him of that. And look, it's also week 1. I know you're also not trying to throw the entire playbook at Indiana so that Notre Dame can pick it up and say, what's this? But yeah, I understand the concerns. I'm a 5 right now, but I get it. I really do. And I'm sympathetic towards Ohio State fans that are shaking in their proverbial boots after that game on Saturday. All right, well, week 2 will be just around the corner, and so check out the 5th and Goal poll when that comes out here in a couple days. You can get kind of our initial take on what we think is going to happen based on the rankings, but some really, really good games. I'd argue there's actually better games happening in week 2 than there were in week 1, so that's exciting. All right, we need to transition ourselves to the National Football League, which kicks off Thursday. I know we haven't really talked too much about it. We've been too loaded with college football talk. But real quick, before we wrap up this episode, we do want to share some NFL division winners, which we do every year. And we're not going to dive into every single division, especially because I'm looking at this list and I see that we agree on several of the divisions. We have unanimous picks, and you probably do at home too for these divisions. So, but we will run down the list of some of the differences that we have. The season kicks off on Thursday. My beloved Detroit Lions start their road to the Super Bowl against the defending Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. That happens on Thursday. We got the Battle of Ohio right out of the gate, week 1, Cincinnati, Cleveland. So that's exciting. But we'll run through some division winners real quick. We'll get into actual NFL talk when the football has been kicked off there, because it has in college football, and thus we'll talk about that instead. But we'll start in the AFC East. Unanimous pick, the Buffalo Bills. Do I really need to say anything about this? Buffalo is probably going to end up in my Super Bowl projection pick. I'm still working on that one, but Buffalo across the board, probably enough said there. In the AFC South, same thing. We have Jacksonville. That division looks like it's going to be a dumpster fire outside of the Jags. I mean, maybe the Titans will do something, but seems kind of unlikely. You've got a couple rookie quarterbacks there in Anthony Richardson and Bryce. Sorry, not Bryce Young. You got C.J. Stroud there for Houston. So could be some exciting times, but could be some painful mistakes when you've got rookie quarterbacks. That kind of goes with the territory. So we'll move into the divisions where we have some differences. In the AFC North, Johnny and I both have the Cincinnati Bengals, my adopted AFC team. And Josh, I respect it. You're going with your team, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Number of wins happening in Pittsburgh this year?
So here's the thing. And I just want to be hopeful because you know what I'm doing right now? I'm watching every single Kenny Pickett preseason snap.
Nice.
And you know what? He's not bad. I like him. And so I'm going to go out on hope here and just go, you know what? Why not? I forget. I did give a prediction for how many wins they would do. Did I say 10?
It sounds
12,
right.
15.
No,
the difference?
stay at 10, Josh. 10 was a much more reasonable take. Although they're probably winning a little more than that to win the division.
I was gonna say, I feel like I may have said 12. Yeah, let's do that. I'm really, I don't know. There's energy that I like. I like Kenny. You can tell that he was developing as the season progressed. It's because of him that Tomlin can keep his 500 or above streak. So I don't know. Let's go. Why not?
It's not crazy, Josh.
No, it's
not
really
crazy.
not.
The Ravens get hurt every year, and the Steelers just have to stay healthy on defense. Like, honestly, they just need TJ Watt to not get hurt, because it feels like that happens, and that's when they
Also,
go 1-4 in the middle of the season, and that kind of screws you. So I think Pittsburgh at least is a solid pick for somebody to say like makes the wild card at minimum this year. So
it's not like someone picking Oregon to win
that's the most sane thing ever. So
I want it so bad.
Did you see what they did to Portland State?
Did you see what they did to their own mascot? Jeez.
Oh my gosh, poor guy.
We tried for a crime. Jeez.
He was still doing push-ups yesterday.
I know.
Yeah.
Poor guy. By the way, straight to jail. Anyone calling the mascot Puddles? That's a tremendous name, but the mascot's name is not Puddles. The mascot's name is the Duck. So there you go. You learned a lesson. AFC West. Johnny and I both have the Kansas City Chiefs. As much as I want to hot take, and maybe it's not even a hot take, as much as I want to pick the Chargers like Josh has, I just think that rosters in that offense is too good with Mahomes. Like, the system is just unbelievable in Kansas City.
Until it falls apart, I can't pick
exactly. Until it falls apart, y'all are doing the right thing by picking them.
Picking against Alabama.
There it is. Exactly.
Until they lose, you don't pick against Nick Saban.
I like Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator at the Chargers. It's partially because of him that Dallas had a dominant offense when they did. And I don't know, let's see. Again, a lot of it, you know what, they'd be kind of fun. This is a worse pick than my pick for the Steelers, but still, because again,
you never know.
If Joe Burrow and the Bengals are stable, much more so are Mahomes and the Chiefs. But let's have fun here.
Yeah,
I can't agree with you guys.
Does go wrong with the Chargers. I don't even know why they won't win the division this year. But something will happen that will cause their demise.
And the Chargers are where good quarterbacks go to just be wasted away for 10 years. Yeah.
The Chargers need to fire everyone on their medical staff. Sorry if any of you are listening. Like, they're terrible. Like, they are awful. Their players are constantly hurt. They have brilliant players. You punctured one of their lungs. Like, for something that should have not remotely had the opportunity to even do that. Like, their players are constantly hurt. You're either doing something wrong with the weight training and conditioning from your athletic trainers there, or the medical staff is doing something crazy, because no other team has injuries like this every single year. Like, you'll have a year where you're snake bitten, but not constantly every single season. Like, it's madness. Anyway.
Yeah.
Truly.
I hope you're right, though, Josh. I would love to see some change in that division. Johnny, do you think which team is more likely to win that division if you couldn't pick Kansas City? Would you pick Denver? I know you love yourself some Russell Wilson.
I'd have to look at the schedule. I'd have to look at the schedule, but no, I would say the Chargers, off the top of my head. Like, they're so much more talented and skilled everywhere. Like, it's just I don't believe in the Chargers.
Yeah.
Because I can't. Yeah. Like,
no, you're
what can go wrong goes wrong for them. Like, it just does. It's almost like Clemson, when Clemsoning was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, this team is so gifted and talented. How can you not break through? And they're just 10-2 every year, 10-2, 9-3. They finally get to that moment where they have a chance to finally step forward and break through. And not only would they lose, they just embarrass themselves. And until, Dabo, and we know now, but
right.
I would love to see them get to that moment, turn that corner, and finally, like, who hates the Chargers except the city of San Diego?
Right.
So,
and understandably so.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
as they should.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will move over to the NFC. both Josh and I have the Eagles winning the division. Makes sense. They made it all the way to the Super Bowl last year. Johnny, I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe it. Tell us what you're doing,
Johnny.
Okay,
Johnny,
so
I thought about doing
I
thought about doing this as a bit, and I realized, no, I can't do that. That's too ridiculous.
Okay, we are all like, none of us are making any takes here, really. So that's part of it. Like,
yeah, fair.
It's never just like copy and paste. Who are the division winners from last year? Like copy and paste. That's not how the NFL works. Part of it's just injuries, and we can't obviously predict or foresee that. So like, Philly is easily the team to beat. They're easily the deepest, most talented team. But when Jalen Hurts got banged, Jalen Hurts runs the ball a lot and could potentially get banged up again. I think Washington, now that the off-field mess is out of the way, and if Sam Howell is a stable quarterback, which I think he really could be a halfway decent starting quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a top 15 quarterback, but could Sam Howell be in the same mold of that Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, not stylistically, but where you're a decent starting quarterback, but you're just not blowing anyone's mind? Yeah, like I think that's very reasonable. And the Giants, while I don't think they make the playoffs this year, like they're not going to regress so much that they're not competitive there. So I think it's really just, for me, the division gets better. Philly's going to be playing a first place schedule. And I don't have the guts to pick Washington or New York. So Dallas is kind of my last man standing there.
All right.
Weird things happen in the NFL every year.
You're not wrong.
We're going to be weirdly wrong about one of these divisions. So
yeah,
why not the East?
Yeah, for sure. Well, a division that we won't be, or at least Josh and I won't be wildly wrong, is the NFC North, because I've told you guys since like April, I think, Detroit's winning the division this year. It's happening. We're getting to the playoffs. We're going to win a playoff game for the first time in my lifetime. For those keeping track at home, Tim Tebow, one playoff win in the Super Bowl era. Detroit, one win in the postseason in the Super Bowl era. That's going to change. We're finally going to beat Tim Tebow. I like the Lions. I think that defense will be improved. This was a playoff team if their defense was just average. This was the second to worst defense in the NFL, and they were the correct combination of Seahawks losing to whoever at the end of the season from sliding into the wild card. They're not going to need to slide into the wild card this year because they're winning the division. Minnesota was an awesome story last year. They won all those close games. Statistically, it is so improbable for them to do something like that again. I think they're going to come back down to earth. Unlike Detroit, I'm not sure Minnesota addressed their defense the way the Lions did. And that Minnesota defense was also terrible. And I think actually might have been worse than Detroit's. Chicago is going to be right there. I think Justin Fields, they loaded up in the offseason. Good for them. They gave Justin Fields some weapons. Hopefully they've given him better protection. So I think they could actually be pretty tough. The Packers could be good if Jordan Love is as good as some people think he could be. So I think it's a difficult division, but Dan Campbell's going to have those guys ready. I think they're going to lose to Kansas City week 1, and people are going to forget about them, and they're going to just slide right under the radar and get hot right at the right time. They're going to beat Minnesota twice in the last 3 weeks because for some odd reason, they play Minnesota twice in the last 3 weeks, and they're taking that division. Easy.
I hate that scheduling. I hate that. But
yeah,
I think Justin Fields and the Bears get it done. I think they get it done, Aaron. I'm sorry. I think the Lions still make the playoffs, so don't hear me like, man, the Lions are terrible. But I am curious to see how Detroit handles the pressure of expectations.
Sure. Because
they have really never had any expectations in the last 2 decades, minus like maybe one of those Matt Stafford years with Jim Caldwell. Like, there's never been an expectation of like, we should win the division.
Right.
There's been I hope we're okay this year and maybe we'll sneak into the wild card. But like, no, like you are everyone's favorite to win the division this year. That is the expectation. Listen, I think it's huge you kept your offensive coordinator in Detroit. I thought that was honestly the biggest offseason move because Jared Goff, while he is a quality quarterback, he is very reliant on the parts around him. So losing that offensive coordinator, I think, would have been very detrimental to Detroit. I'm just curious to see how they handle that expectation. It's not even necessarily a talent thing, but I think Chicago's right there with them, even on a talent basis. I really don't think Detroit is like so much more talented than Chicago that they can't win. I don't trust Jordan Love with Packers. Otherwise, I think that roster is good enough to compete for the division, but quarterback's the most important position. Minnesota won't go away in that division. I expect them to be highly competitive, probably split with teams. It's going to be a fun race. I think that might be the closest division race that we have. But with Justin Fields, I'm a homer.
Yeah. All right. Very nice.
I'd love for him to be good, but
maybe part of it's just my heart, but
I would love for him to be
really
good.
Addressed issues. They really addressed their issues this offseason. Yeah. Like, they're not ignoring them. They're really doing everything they can to make this succeed. So it is very much a make or break year for Justin Fields, though, because if it's not good from him, they're going to be looking to the draft with a very quarterback rich draft. And I know they say that every year. I don't remember a potential draft like this at quarterback. We have to, maybe not all of them come out, but hypothetically, if all of them declare, wow, this draft.
Yeah, for sure. All right, over to the NFC South. Johnny, you and I both have New Orleans. I will say this is a wide open division. I think anyone, maybe except Tampa Bay, can win it. I like New Orleans. I believe, if I saw the stat correctly, depending on which publication you subscribe to, hypothetically, the Saints have the easiest schedule in the NFL. And they also address some concerns. I've always been a fan of Derek Carr. I know Raiders fans do not necessarily feel that way, but I think you're going to get Kamara back from suspension. Also, if Carr doesn't work out, you got Jay Kaner there. You're good. Jay Kaner's got this. But I do like the Saints. I feel like they're usually stout on defense. I'm assuming that will be the case again this year. But wide open. Josh, I know you've got a slightly different choice there.
Yeah, in a world of 8 and 9s, maybe Atlanta will go 9 and 8.
Oh, what a bar.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, I actually am a little bit higher on Derek Carr only because I live one floor away from a diehard Raiders fan who's thoroughly convinced that the Raiders just used him up inefficiently. So we could see he could do something. Yeah, at this point, there's enough. I would probably go with normally the prestige of coaching that normally comes from someone like the Saints, at least the history they have. But, again, I just wanted to, it's wide open enough. I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
Either way, let's go Falcons. They got Bijan Robinson. They got Desmond Ridder.
One of the underdogs has to win one of these divisions.
Yep.
Exactly.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And
I just think that might be one of the worst quarterback divisions.
Yeah, I was going to say, they should have a better defense this year. So, yeah, let's give it a shot.
All right.
Have fun.
Final division, the NFC West. You guys both have the Seahawks, which I respect. I'm still sticking with the 49ers. And I know it's not glamorous what San Francisco does. It's just figure out a way to get the ball moved enough and then rely on that defense. I believe in Brock Purdy. Mr. Relevant is back. He's ready to go. Debo is ready to go. He also happens to be in my fantasy team, so I need him to do some things. But I like the 49ers, but I would love to see Seattle win it. I'd love to see maybe the Rams have a bounce back season. I don't think they're going to bounce back to the point that they're winning that division, but I think it could be strong. Arizona's going to be bad, but actually Arizona could be just flat out terrible. But what do you guys think about the Seahawks, though? I'm curious.
I love their draft. They're I felt like it was the second year in a row where they knocked out of the park. And from San Francisco's standpoint, Bosa's asking for that contract extension.
Yep.
And I know they're not paying, and I actually like that they got rid of Trey Lance. We have to, it's not me really questioning necessarily if Brock Purdy has it. He's basically coming off Tommy John surgery.
Right.
I have a lot of, and that was the last game of the season in the NFC title game. I just have questions whether he's going to be ready. And so I think there's a chance that San Francisco starts the season off really, really poorly. and Seattle just builds up a lead that's insurmountable. And again, weak NFC. Like a team like Seattle could have a very bloated win record. Just because the conference just is not very good. That team with those weapons, with their stability, I love Pete Carroll. The draft has been great. San Francisco, obviously, that wouldn't shock me. But I'm worried about Brock Purdy, like just health-wise, worried about him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Geno Smith just simply has fewer questions at this point. Not no questions. Definitely not no questions, but I think fewer questions. I think a few more assumptions you can safely ride on versus what Purdy's going through.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, well, there's our division picks. I'm sure we got all of those wrong if last year was any indication, but let us know if you're watching on our YouTube live stream.
Congratulations to the Vikings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, good job, Houston. Let us know, if you're watching live on the YouTube stream, or you can hit us up on social media. You can yell at us, say, hey, your picture's stupid, and then we reply, no, you.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Or yes.
Yes,
please.
we know.
No, please come and just, I don't even give us takes, give us just insults.
Yeah.
The greatest joy I had is when we like ticked off all the Chicago fans.
Oh, did we ever?
That was so much fun. Please, I want to just.
I'm with you this time, Chicago, though.
Yes.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Rooting for them.
We bullied the Chicago Bears into actually giving Justin Fields some weapons and an offensive line. So if you are a fan of a bad team and you would like us to make a video about how you're ruining your franchise quarterback, it apparently works. So we'd be happy to do it for you for a small convenience fee. So
we will not do that for the Browns. They get exactly what they deserve.
Yep.
They are allowed to waste their franchise quarterback.
Yep. Although ideal situation is that Deshaun just goes away, just disappears, and my guy DTR takes over, because that dude was electric in the preseason and basically got a roster spot because of how well he played. So shout out to DTR. But
those Pac-12 quarterbacks, man. Those Pac-12 quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, time for our picks of the week. Last week, we picked the Confusion Bowl between Miami, Florida, and Miami, Ohio. Unfortunately, Miami, Florida did claim a 38-3 victory. But here's the issue. So we all picked, but we picked the points as well, meaning that we all gave our predictions of the score. I'm stalling while I pull up what our scores were. I had this tab open and then I closed it.
Basically, Aaron and I both picked, obviously, the correct outcome.
Here we go.
Overall.
I got
it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Johnny and I both got the correct outcome, but we picked different points. So I said that fake Miami was going to win 34-17. Johnny said that fake Miami was going to win 45-20. Now, in order to assign points to our scoreboard, which currently reads myself in the lead with 64 and Johnny and Josh both with 58, we have to decide whose score is closer. So Johnny's 45-20 prediction was closer in the sense that he had Miami, Florida winning by 25. They won by 35. I only had Miami winning by 17. So in terms of just margin of victory, Johnny's pick was closer. But if you are picking based on which score was closer, my score was closer to the actual score, meaning I had 34-17. The game was 38-3. So in terms of like point differential between my pick to the actual score, I was closer. Johnny was much higher scoring, 45-20. The game wasn't quite as high scoring. So your overall point differential, if you will, is not as close. So the problem is we really need a third party, because Johnny and I were fighting over. We weren't actually. I'm trying to make this like a big deal. Yeah, we were screaming at one another off camera, off stream, off podcast.
Josh had to calm us down.
Yeah, about whose pick was better. So really, I think this falls into Josh as sole judge of who is the winner, and we will go with the results, as arbitrary and capricious as they might be. We'll go with the results that you provide. Man.
This is hard. This is what I'm
You
going
need a
with.
moment to ponder, Josh.
No, I don't. It's arbitrary and capricious. We're going with Johnny because he predicted more of a blowout.
Okay.
Woo. All right. I respect your decision. Also, just
I'll send my appeal letter in the mail tomorrow.
For your well, Aaron, hopefully Josh gets back to that appeal quicker than the NCAA does, because
got him.
Hey, Aaron, I'll
Josh,
tell you,
will you
I got
get
a great
to that
file
within a year? Within a year?
This is my complaint department. It's a trash can for those who are not watching this.
Yes.
Yeah. Free Tez Walker. Michigan, you're a joke. Get out of here with the free Harbaugh t-shirts. You suspended him yourself.
They act like this man died in a horrible tragedy.
You're the corniest program in the country. It's absolutely
Thing,
ridiculous.
but
you know who deserved to have t-shirts like that? Tez Walker for North Carolina. That is an abomination, and I respected the heck out of I can't remember who was calling the game, but they just ripped into the NCAA.
Was that Chris Fowler? No, it wasn't.
No. McDonough.
Yes.
It was McDonough.
Yeah, sure was.
And he let them have it.
Good for him.
Calling him a disgrace. And he's absolutely right. This sorry that we're totally sidetracking here, but it was just so bad. Like, NCAA changed the rules days after he had already declared for his transfer. So one should have been grandfathered in, but the NCAA said, well, we already passed this months ago. We just didn't announce it. Well, how's he supposed to know? How is he supposed to know? Like, that is an outrage. And then again, this didn't happen 2 weeks ago where you're like, oh man, we better rush and try to get a judgment here and gather all the facts to find out if he can play week 1. This is happening months and months ago. And the NCAA is like, well, we'll review it again next Thursday after the first game, and then we'll see. So he's still not even going to know if he can play week 2 until Thursday's hearing. It's absurd. They're a joke. They need to go away. Sorry for ranting again. I was going to say if you bet your Monopoly money, I bet your unders, guys. With the new rules, I think Vegas probably learned their lesson this week too. With the unders were on fire most of these games just because of the new clock rules. There's less offensive possessions, so hammer those unders. That Miami game, I predicted way too many points because there's just honestly, guys, there's a blowout scoreline will look much different in most games this year. I know you had that Oklahoma Arkansas State game. Most games are probably going to be closer to that 40-10 score because it's just not going, or even in the 30s, because there's just not that many possessions. And if you're up 3 touchdowns going into the fourth quarter on someone, you're throwing your backups in. So anyway, just a side note for everyone, hammer those unders.
Yep. All right. So this week, the U.S. Open tennis is happening. It's been a really, really good tournament. There's been a lot of good storylines. So we'll pick it real quick here. We're going to pick both the men's and women's winner. Unlike what we've done with tennis in the past, we're actually picking this kind of in the quarterfinal round, I believe, of both competitions. So we at least have a little bit more knowledge and a little bit better of a chance of winning. So I'm picking the exact same combination that I picked at Wimbledon. I'm picking Alcaraz and I'm picking Coco Gauff. And Alcaraz won Wimbledon, and he seems like he's well on his way, with obviously Novak in his way at some point on the bracket in the U.S. Open. But I'm just picking it until it works out. I'm telling you, Coco's going to get one of these. She's had a really good tournament so far. It's practically her backyard where they're playing. So I've got Alcaraz and Gauff again.
Yeah, I got the same as Aaron. I'll just say that real quick. It'd be awesome for Coco to win her very first one, on U.S. soil. That'd be really cool. It's just a matter of time. And you don't have to like tennis. If you just like competition and sports, you have to watch if Alcaraz and Djokovic play each other in this tournament. You need to tune in for that. This isn't in Europe or Australia where the time is crazy and it's hard for you to watch. Tune in for that match. Their last 2 have been wars, and I expect nothing less in this tournament. It feels like it's destined to happen. So tune in for that.
Guys, I went with something new this week, and I think you can tell based on my picks. I know nothing about tennis. I have tried picking the favorite, and they always disappoint. I have tried picking against the favorite, and that doesn't seem to work either because I'm trying to go off some gut thing. The gut thing I have in football that works out okay sometimes. The gut thing I have in, what was it, one thing? Random sports like horses and random things like that. I've not been able to find that for tennis. So I'm going off of pure, dumb, procedurally generated fate. I went to the odds of of both men's and women's US Open. Basically took everyone who was at least 1,000 or under odds to win. For the men's, that was 3 people. For the women's, that was 6. And I just did, okay, cool, random number generator, 1 through 3. For the men's, 1 through 6 for the women's. So I have Medvedev for the men's, and I had to double check because they are both still in it.
Nice.
So Medvedev for the men's and Muchova for the women's. Do I know anything about them? No. A computer told me to pick them.
Nice.
I love that. But I won't even give context. I think it's better to just leave it as is.
I think so too.
Yes.
And also, for sake of time, we probably should go into what we're following. I will start with another sports-related thing. So I mentioned earlier there's a lot of good games in week 2. If you are let me put it this way. If you are not a college football sicko like the 3 of us, you probably don't even know that Iowa State is happening this week. It's getting lost in Texas A&M versus Miami. It's getting lost in Texas, Alabama. It's getting lost in North Carolina State, Notre Dame. But yes, the Cy-Hawk Trophy is back up for grabs. So that's a rivalry just by itself that's always fun to watch. It's the most sickos football you could probably get at the Power 5 level. On top of that, might I remind you that Brian Ferentz's job is dependent on him and his offense scoring 25 points per game. Against Utah State, Iowa scores with transfer quarterback Cade McNamara and a couple other transfers. They go right down the field twice and score a touchdown. And you're looking at your friends and thinking, oh my, is Iowa's offense good? I'll never fear. They only scored 10 points the remainder of the game to give them a total of 24. So now Brian Ferentz must score 25.1 points per game the rest of the season. We'll keep this tracker going the entire way as we are all about ending nepotism. The reason why I bring that up specifically for this game, let me read you the scores of the last few Cy-Hawk trophies. 2018, Iowa wins 13-3. 2019, Iowa wins 18-17. 2020, game was not played. 2021, Iowa goes really big here. 27-17. I mean, just smashing that 25-point average by a whole 2 points. And then 2022, Iowa State wins 10-7. Now, asking Brian Ferentz to score 25 points per game is actually below college football average. I will say the new rules, ironically enough, the timing is going to make it really difficult for him to hit 25 points per game, especially with Iowa State. They've got, if you haven't been tracking, they've got a bunch of suspensions for gambling issues that happened this offseason. So they're missing a bunch of players. The point is, this is already historically a low-scoring game. Now you have 2 teams that are desperately wanting to control the pace, control the field position, control the time of possession. This just screams low scoring again. And even if Iowa comes out on top, which I anticipate that they will do, even though I believe this game is in Ames, Iowa could win this 17-7, and the Hawkeyes will be 2-0, but Brian Ferentz will be well below his average that he needs to keep his contractual job. So that's fun. That's what I'm following.
I cannot wait to see what this team does at the end of the season. I want them to have a breakout week where for no reason at all they drop 65 on somebody. It doesn't matter who.
That would be amazing.
It'd be amazing.
And then 10 the next week.
Back in March, I believe, late March, early April, episode 103, whenever that was, I think I talked about Coke and Pepsi. And specifically, we've talked about Pepsi over the summer. I am not a massive fan of anything they do, minus Mountain Dew. From a marketing perspective, they did Pepsi ketchup, I believe, for some. Do you remember that?
Yep.
You may have been
Oh
gone.
yeah. No, I do now.
Pepsi flavored ketchup.
You tried to
For some
forget it.
reason, I was thinking like the soda was ketchup flavored. For some reason, I'm like, that sounds like an abomination. But anyway, sorry.
I don't know which one's worse, frankly. And then, but I believe back in March, we talked about how Pepsi no longer has any share of the fast food burger market. The last holdout, Culver's, switched their supplier from Pepsi to Coke for all of their soda fountains in their stores. So the top 10 burger restaurants, all of them are Coke.
Praise God.
Now, amen. That's the
Nature
only
is
thing you
healing.
gotta go. Nature is healing. Now, hold on. I got to find my article. We also, I think, talked about Starry, their dumb soda, their Sierra Mist replacement. And I remember
Have you guys had that, by the way?
about,
I haven't had it.
guess what?
I feel like I should.
Oh, it's the same. They didn't do a thing to
It's
it.
the exact same.
And I'm going to tell you why. We did talk about this because they discontinued Sierra Mist. They replaced it with
Starry.
With Starry. Hold on. Give me a sec.
We had it at the basketball games last winter, Aaron. I was like, what the heck is this soda?
Yeah, it's dumb. Hold on.
Then I tried it, and it was literally Sierra Mist in a new can.
Hey, this may be, I should have done a little bit more fact checking. I don't know if what I'm about to say is real.
That's okay. Even
That's
better.
okay.
Just send it out in the universe.
I think.
That's better.
Arbitrary and capricious.
Some lady,
not
arbitrary and capricious. Here we go.
Know,
this
Josh
is fact.
knows.
They did it because now they have always said, okay, yeah, you know what? Keep all of this in because now this is the reason why they changed it from Sierra Mist to Starry. Pepsi has said, and they're lying to us, that Sierra Mist was only getting like 1% of lemon lime soda sales. Now that's true. That's not why they changed the name and not anything else. There's a woman on TikTok that has come out and said that she was a. Hold on. No, this is genuinely too made up. There's a woman who's claiming hold on, Johnny. I literally. It's only. Listen, this is how bad it is. It's only on TikTok. I thought there was an article attached to it. It's only one TikTok video, so I'm gonna need to like disconnect, watch the TikTok video, and then come back in. And so
what is she claiming? What is she claiming, Josh?
She's claiming that she's like, I don't know exactly what she's claiming. Basically, that she sued Pepsi for having her name.
Oh,
see,
no,
and then,
okay.
And so I gotta check. I gotta check
that someone did file that lawsuit. Yes. Them winning, no, not a chance.
So that's why I may have goofed on this one. All of this you can cut. I will reset and find another one that I'm following. I have so many of these. Don't worry.
It's actually real.
Johnny, we can do yours.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah. Completely cut me.
What
and I'll
I'm following.
Sounds good.
What I am following this week is something that I was made aware of by Twitter. So thank you, College Football Twitter. Obviously, you are the best part of Twitter. And no, I will never call it X.
No.
It's Twitter. I miss my little blue bird friend. Bring him back, please. It's so much better than this cold, heartless X logo on my phone. My phone feels lifeless without the little bird. Anyway, sorry. So if you're watching any games that probably didn't even involve the Pac-12 this week, everybody's showing their fancy, fun little graphics that are like, look at where everybody's going next year and conference realignment. What are they going to do? And I'm just like, poor Oregon State and Washington State. And if you have a soul or a heart at all, you have thought the exact same things. Like, man, I feel terrible for those two schools. Well, fret not. There is a way for them to get the bag in this. There is an out in which they can make out like robbers in the night, and they deserve it. So this is what I hope they do. So everyone's like, well, will they go to the Mountain West? Will they try to pull the Mountain West teams away from them. Well, there's buyouts there that makes that difficult. It doesn't look like other conferences are interested in them, which is so sad. I'd even like the Big Ten to honestly just grab them at this point. We already took their big brothers, if you will. Might as well take them too. Who cares at this point? So anyway, here's what we're talking about. They're the only two teams left in the conference starting next year. Well, when you get payouts for the NCAA tournament in basketball or bowl games, college football playoff as a conference payouts, and the distributions are sent out as negotiated to all the member schools. Well, that's for the member schools to receive for the upcoming year. So even if USC, Oregon, UCLA makes the Final Four, one of their teams makes the college football playoff, there's a big financial bonus that the conference gets for that success. Well, because the next season, the only two teams are Washington State and Oregon State, those two schools get all of it. So for what occurs this year. So there's also one other thing here. So the NCAA does require that every conference has 8 member institutions. However, here's an NCAA bylaw that they require a conference to have at least 8 members, but there is a 2-year grace period to get back to that number. Due to realignment, the NCAA actually has a decent rule here for once. Who would have thought? They give you a 2-year grace period to hey, we know you just got gutted. Maybe you can't put it together in 1 year. We should give you 2 years to try to get back to 8. Now, most of the time, they're probably thinking you're at 6 or 7 and we don't want to screw you, not 2 schools. But technically, they're still part of the conference. So they get the 2-year grace period to get back to that number. So silly as it sounds, the Pac-12 could theoretically operate as a 2-team conference in 2024 through 25 and the next year, 25 to 26, with just Oregon State and Washington State. And they could just make their own schedules other than obviously playing one another. So basically what we're saying is stall the heck out of this right now.
Yeah.
If you're Oregon State, Washington State, everybody's just make a move already. No, don't do anything like that. And the Mountain West, their media rights deal is ending in the next couple years. So you won't have to pay those ridiculous buyouts then at that point, and you can take them for free. And I know everyone's that's semantics. It's not, because the Pac-12 name is worth something. It does matter. Oregon State, Washington State also would retain really control of the conference rather than jumping to the Mountain West. It's very interesting. I don't know how they would negotiate a media rights deal for those two schools, for the next a year or two, just to get on television, because obviously they'll want to. But stall, guys. Stall. Get that money. Keep that money. Take your time. Screw everybody else in this process. Burn it to the ground. You deserve to, and you have our full support.
Yeah. I just dream of all the conference tournaments happening in basketball, and then you flip on the Pac-12 conference, and they're just playing a best of 7, just chilling while they're waiting on all the other teams to finish their conference tournaments. Yeah, we'll just play best of 7. Why not? Little Pac-12 finals,
guaranteed
baby.
One of them in the tournament.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
And then the other one probably has 2 or 3 wins against the Pac-12 champion. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yep. Boost that resume.
We are with you, Beeves and Cougs.
Oh, man.
We are with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, Johnny. That's incredible. It feels like a way to stick this to the NCAA, which we want to do that.
And all the media companies and the SEC and Big Ten. Do it. It'd be great.
You know who can't stall anymore?
Uh-oh.
Texas Pete, the hot sauce, because they are being sued by a man based out of LA in a 46-page lawsuit suing them for false advertising because technically Texas Pete hot sauce is not made in Texas. It is made in North Carolina.
Uh-oh.
Oh, they deserve to be sued.
Yeah.
I'm with them.
Here's the thing. it has always been a North Carolina brand. It was invented in North Carolina in 1929 because some local barbecue joints kept getting requests for spicier barbecue sauce. And so they were like, cool, we're going to make this hot sauce so that you can put it, on your barbecue. It was originally going to be named Mexican Joe. And this is directly from the website, the Texas Pete website. It was originally going to be named Mexican Joe, and that wasn't American enough. And so they named it Texas Pete's because America and Texas is known for spicy foods, they say. They have never claimed that it is an authentic Texas style hot sauce. They've never claimed that it was anything but a fun character. A California court, the courts that the guy filed in has denied.
It's California. It's always California.
It's always California. A California court in a 20-page response denied Texas Pete's company. It doesn't even matter who. Texas Pete filed to dismiss, and the court said, nope, we're taking this to trial. So just as one lawsuit ends with the chess heads, another lawsuit begins. We get to hear all the glories of the Texas Pete versus random guy in California.
People get to decide.
People get to decide,
yes,
whether or not Texas Pete needs to change its name after almost 100 years. They are 6 years away. They are 6 years away from being able to have 100th anniversary of Texas Pete, and right on the cusp of their centennial, they're going to have to change their name and wait another 100 years.
That's hilarious.
I don't think they have to change their name. You just need to have underneath it say not really from Texas. I'm good with that.
It says it's.
Where does it say on the bottle, Josh? I think it's from Texas when I bought it. Maybe I wouldn't have bought it if I knew it wasn't from Texas.
Hey, Johnny, where's Indiana Jones from?
He's from New Jersey.
Yeah. So sometimes a name's a name.
Well, yeah, but he's named after the dog, not the place. So
doesn't matter. You don't know specifically. Texas just sounds like a spicy sounding. Listen, this is a character. They're putting on the character. There was never a Texas Pete. They don't make up a fake bio for this guy. They've always been I went to their website and they said, yeah, we're from North Carolina. They've never hidden that.
Does it say it on the bottle?
It says from North Carolina, the company.
Well,
the lawsuit specifically says that they need to have a specific product product origin of products label somewhere. They need to say down at the bottom, with olive oils and tomatoes and stuff you get, you have to have a date of or a country of origin.
That's not so hard. Just do it, Texas Pete. Come on.
It's about the principle.
No,
I've never once thought that Texas Pete was a Texas hot sauce. Now, if this was Louisiana hot sauce, I know they claim this is a Louisiana traditional hot sauce recipe. I have Louisiana in my fridge right now. They have always claimed to be a Louisiana original. If they were, if it turns out they're from Wyoming, yeah, sue them all day. Texas Pete
you wouldn't have to sue. Have you seen those LSU fans? If you claim that one of your seasonings was from Louisiana and it wasn't, they'd come for you.
They'd burn down the building.
Yeah, that would not go to court. They'd take care of it themselves. Popeye's CEO will come bust down your door. And
yeah. Man. Well, Deion Sanders is busting down my door. Popeyes is breaking into Josh's apartment as we speak. Although I said 6 wins, so actually Deion might be showing up to your door too, Josh. Because
I had the lowest wins. I had the most out of everyone here, so I'm
Johnny's
good,
safe. Johnny's safe.
Even at 7-5, and I actually thought I'd be. But we're all being reasonable. Everybody, all I saw after that game was 10-2, and I'm like, guys, for your own sake, don't don't do that. Anyway.
Yep. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Get yourself some non-Texas hot sauce and watch some
Crystal, Louisiana, Valentina.
Yep.
Tapatio, anything. Cholula, anything.
Get all the things Josh said that of those words that I've never heard before in my life.
A real, actual hot sauce.
Yep. Do it. All right. Enjoy the NFL football. Enjoy college football. We'll be... Oh, real quick, I guess I should say this before we go. We will probably be switching up our usual schedule. So you will start seeing episodes come out on Fridays. So there won't be one this Friday because this episode will be coming out on the usual Wednesday or Thursday. But episodes will be coming out on Friday. We're moving our YouTube stream to Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. So if you are a traditional YouTube watcher and you want to catch us live and interact over there, then that's when we'll be doing that. So just kind of a heads up there. Otherwise, yeah, enjoy that football. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one.
Beautiful.
YouTube, thanks for hanging out. It definitely, I can tell based on viewership that you guys definitely enjoy when the sound is available. So,
Oh, good.